At Synergy Innovations, a newly appointed CEO, Caleb Drake, arrives incognito in a wheelchair to observe the company's true culture. His presence sparks an unsettling confrontation with Penelope, the rigid and dismissive HR director, whose bias and condescension escalate into a public display of arrogance. Employees, long silenced under her authoritarian leadership, witness this tension unfold as Caleb's unassuming demeanor clashes with Penelope's prejudiced assumptions. The shocking incident forces a reckoning within the workplace, exposing deep-seated discrimination and power imbalances that had festered unchecked. What follows is a dramatic shift that challenges notions of leadership, respect, and equality. At Synergy Innovations, the start of the week usually buzzed with the energy of impending deadlines and an air of relentless determination. But this particular Monday was destined to disrupt the norm. The arrival of a man named Caleb Drake would send ripples through the company's polished facade. Caleb entered the gleaming glass lobby in a wheelchair, his presence commanding yet understated. He was dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that radiated quiet authority, but Caleb's arrival was not about making a spectacle. As the newly appointed CEO, he had deliberately chosen to keep his identity under wraps, his mission, to experience the company's culture without the filter of corporate niceties. What unfolded next, however, was anything but professional. Penelope Hart, the company's stern and infamously unyielding HR director, caught sight of Caleb. Known for her rigid enforcement of rules and her curt manner, Penelope wasted no time. Her heels clattered sharply against the marble floor as she approached him, her expression a mix of irritation and disapproval. "This area is restricted to employees," she barked, her voice laced with impatience. "You're clearly in the wrong place. Let me assist you in finding the exit." Caleb met her gaze, his expression calm and measured, but the tension was palpable. Penelope, oblivious to the sharp tailoring of his suit and the unshakable confidence in his demeanor, had already dismissed him as an outsider. To her, Caleb was just an inconvenience, a disruption to the tightly controlled environment she prided herself on maintaining. The room seemed to hold its breath as employees passing through began to take notice. Conversations trailed off, and the rhythmic tapping of keyboards slowed as eyes turned toward the scene unfolding in the lobby. Penelope, either unaware of or indifferent to the attention she was drawing, continued in the same condescending tone. "I suggest you head to the visitors' lounge, or, better yet, schedule an appointment before returning. We run a tight ship here." Caleb remained unfazed, his silence amplifying the awkwardness in the room. He wanted to see how far she would take this charade, and Penelope, sensing no resistance, pushed further. Her assumptions about him, based purely on appearance, revealed a glaring blind spot in the very values she claimed to uphold. But this story isn't just about Penelope's arrogance or Caleb's quiet resilience. It's about the lessons that unfold when the tables are turned, when those who wield power recklessly are forced to confront their own biases. What happens when justice demands more than just accountability, but transformation? This is a tale of redemption, growth, and the profound impact of challenging prejudice at its core. As this extraordinary journey begins, it promises to leave an indelible mark on Synergy Innovations and everyone watching. The interaction between Penelope and Caleb was more than a mere exchange of words. It was a subtle clash of values. Yet, Penelope either failed to notice or chose to ignore the deeper implications. Her tone, as always, was sharp and laced with an air of superiority, a hallmark of her reputation as rigid and unapproachable. Across the lobby, a few employees glanced at the scene with quiet unease. Marcus, an operations associate known for his knack for reading situations, muttered under his breath to a colleague, "She's doing it again." He shook his head, dismayed, but unsurprised. Meanwhile, Caleb remained silent, his head tilted slightly as he studied Penelope's every word and movement. His composure contrasted starkly with Penelope's escalating frustration, creating a thick air of anticipation. Unbeknownst to Penelope, this seemingly ordinary encounter was about to thrust her into the spotlight, exposing her actions for all to see. And the fallout would leave an indelible mark on her career. Penelope squared her shoulders and tightened her arms across her chest, radiating unwavering confidence. "This is a private office," she declared, her voice clipped and authoritative. "I don't know how you managed to get in here, but you can't stay. Please make your way to the exit." A faint smirk tugged at the corner of her lips, as if she were enjoying the assumed power dynamic. To Penelope, Caleb was nothing more than an interloper who had stumbled into a world he didn't belong in. Caleb, however, remained unflinching. His steady gaze met hers with an expression that revealed nothing. Then, in a voice calm, yet deliberate, he replied, "Actually, I'm exactly where I need to be." The room seemed to hold its breath as the tension between them thickened, but Penelope, oblivious to the subtle shift in energy, doubled down. "I don't know how you slipped past security," she snapped, her tone dripping with disdain. "But this is not a place where anyone can simply walk in without clearance." Before Caleb could respond, another voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Penelope, what are you doing?" Emma Hayes, the regional director, had appeared at the far end of the lobby. Her face was pale, her wide eyes darting nervously between Penelope and Caleb. The weight of the situation was evident in her expression, a mix of panic and disbelief. Unlike Penelope, Emma knew exactly who Caleb was, and the realization of what was unfolding made her stomach churn. "What am I doing?" Penelope snapped, her irritation now directed at Emma. "I'm doing my job, handling someone who clearly doesn't belong here." Emma's voice trembled as she blurted out, "Penelope, that's Caleb Drake, our new CEO." The words landed with the force of a thunderclap. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Penelope's confident smirk evaporated, replaced by a look of sheer horror. Her arms dropped limply to her sides as her face drained of color. The weight of Emma's words crashed down on her like an avalanche, leaving her visibly shaken. Around them, employees froze mid-step, their conversations replaced by a ripple of shocked whispers. The atmosphere grew dense with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Eyes darted from Penelope to Caleb, and the realization of what had just occurred spread like wildfire. Caleb, unbothered by the commotion, leaned forward slightly in his wheelchair. His expression remained calm, but the faintest glimmer of something unspoken, resolve perhaps, shone in his eyes. The stage was set for a reckoning, one that would not only expose the flaws in Penelope's approach, but also set the tone for a new chapter at Synergy Innovations. Caleb's presence in the room was undeniable, his calm yet commanding demeanor impossible to ignore. He broke the silence, his voice sharp and deliberate. "It's fascinating," he began, his gaze sweeping over the gathered employees. "How quickly people reveal their true selves when they believe no one is paying attention." The room seemed to collectively hold its breath. Penelope's lips parted as though she wanted to respond, but no words came. Her usual poise was shattered, and for the first time, she appeared genuinely unsettled. I didn't mean," she stammered, her voice faltering under Caleb's steady, unyielding gaze. The damage, however, was already done. Around them, whispers grew louder as employees exchanged knowing glances. Many had been on the receiving end of Penelope's cold authority before, and the moment felt like long overdue vindication. Emma, standing nearby, looked torn, relieved that Caleb had witnessed the incident firsthand, but clearly uneasy about the public spectacle unfolding. Without raising his voice, Caleb addressed the room again, his tone firm yet resolute. "Respect," he said, his words carrying weight, "isn't just a line in our handbook or a bullet point in corporate policy. It's the foundation of a healthy workplace. Without it, we cannot thrive, not as a company, and certainly not as individuals." A ripple of agreement moved through the crowd, tentative at first, but growing stronger. A few employees began to clap, the sound hesitant, but soon swelling into a wave of applause. Faces in the crowd lit up, a renewed sense of hope and unity spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, Penelope stood frozen. The arrogance and authority she had once exuded were gone, replaced by visible regret and disbelief. Her shoulders slumped as the weight of her actions and their consequences bore down on her. The crowd's reaction made it clear. This was not a moment she could dismiss or recover from easily. As the applause subsided, Caleb allowed the silence to linger for a moment before speaking again, his tone measured but powerful. "What I witnessed today," he said, scanning the room, "is not just about one person's actions. It's about a culture that has allowed complacency, prejudice, and arrogance to take root, that ends now." The crowd listened intently, many nodding in agreement. Caleb's words seemed to tap into emotions and frustrations that had long been buried. At Synergy Innovations, we pride ourselves on innovation and progress, he continued. But those values mean nothing if we fail to pair them with empathy, inclusivity, and mutual respect. He turned his gaze directly to Penelope, who flinched slightly under the weight of his words. Penelope, he said, his voice calm yet firm. You've built your reputation on authority and control, but authority without empathy breeds fear, not respect. And today, you've shown everyone what happens when power is used to tear down rather than build up. Penelope opened her mouth, perhaps to defend herself, but no sound came. Her usual sharp demeanor was gone, replaced by shame and disbelief. Caleb didn't wait for her to gather her thoughts. Intent, he said firmly, does not erase impact, and the impact of your actions today has been plain for everyone to see. The employees stood in stunned silence, many visibly moved. Some exchanged glances, as though finally seeing their workplace through a new lens. Others smiled faintly, their respect for their new CEO deepening with every word. Caleb's presence had transformed the atmosphere entirely. Turning his focus back to the crowd, Caleb's tone softened slightly. This moment isn't just about what went wrong, he said. It's about what comes next. This is a fresh start for Synergy Innovations. A company isn't defined by its profits or products. It's defined by its people. And every single one of you deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter your title, your background, or your appearance. The silence broke into another wave of applause, this time louder and more heartfelt. The sound echoed through the building, a symbolic breaking of old, harmful norms. Employees clapped and cheered, their faces filled with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. For many, it felt like the beginning of a new era. At the edge of the room, Penelope appeared smaller than ever before. Her shoulders sagged, and her head hung low as the full weight of her actions sank in. For years, she had ruled through intimidation, but now she stood exposed, her authority stripped bare. While she couldn't undo the harm she'd caused, the lesson she had learned would stay with her forever. As the applause faded, Caleb leaned back in his wheelchair, his expression as calm and resolute as ever. The energy in the room was palpable. No longer one of tension, but of hope and possibility. This isn't just about today, Caleb concluded, his voice carrying through the lobby. It's about who we want to be, from this day forward, as individuals and as a company. Let this be the moment we commit to building something better together. The employees erupted into applause once more, their enthusiasm lighting up the room. For Caleb, this was the first step in transforming Synergy Innovations into a place where respect and integrity were more than just ideals, they were lived values. For Penelope, the realization was stark. The path she had walked, one built on fear and control, had crumbled beneath her. Change was inevitable, not just for her, but for everyone at the company. And so, with Caleb's words ringing in their ears, Synergy Innovations turned a corner, stepping into a future defined by unity, respect, and the courage to be better. The transformation at Synergy Innovations was palpable. The tension that had once hung heavy over the office had dissolved, replaced by an atmosphere of hope and collaboration. Employees moved with a renewed sense of purpose, their interactions laced with kindness and understanding. Caleb's powerful words and actions had sparked a ripple effect, touching everyone who had witnessed the events of that unforgettable day. Emma, the regional director, reflected on the changes with a mixture of relief and determination. For years, she had struggled to balance the demands of corporate leadership. With her innate desire to lead with compassion, Caleb's example reignited her resolve. This is the wake-up call we needed, she admitted to a colleague over coffee later that week. Leadership isn't about enforcing rules, it's about inspiring others to do their best. The shift in the company culture was evident in both small gestures and larger conversations. Employees who had once avoided difficult topics now spoke openly about respect, inclusion, and the workplace they wanted to build. A colleague holding the elevator, another offering to assist with a project. These seemingly minor actions reflected a deeper, collective commitment to fostering an environment of mutual care and integrity. Even those who had once admired Penelope's strict authority from afar began to question their views on leadership. Her fall from grace served as a stark reminder that power wielded without empathy is unsustainable. In its place, Caleb had demonstrated the kind of strength that truly inspires, one rooted in humility, compassion, and unwavering respect. As for Penelope, the lessons of that day were undeniable. She had been a figure of power, feared and obeyed, but her actions had left a legacy of harm. Now, stripped of her authority, she stood as a cautionary tale. Yet, there was a flicker of change in her demeanor. The regret etched on her face, and her quieter presence in meetings suggested that she had begun to reckon with the impact of her behavior. Though the road to redemption would not be easy, the first steps had been taken. In the days that followed, Caleb's influence continued to shape the company. Policies were reviewed, training sessions on inclusivity were implemented, and open forums were held for employees to share their experiences and ideas for improvement. Caleb's leadership had ignited not just a change in policy, but a shift in mindset. Employees approached their work with a sense of pride, united by a common vision for a workplace defined by respect and integrity. Caleb's parting words during a company-wide meeting resonated deeply with everyone who heard them. Power used to belittle others will always crumble under its own weight. True strength lies in lifting others up and creating an environment where everyone can thrive. These words became a guiding principle at Synergy Innovations. The company was no longer just an innovator in its industry. It had become a leader in fostering a culture of humanity and inclusion. Employees didn't just return to their desks to meet deadlines. They returned with the knowledge that they were building something greater together. For Caleb, this wasn't just about transforming a workplace. It was about igniting a movement. His vision had turned Synergy Innovations into a symbol of what could be achieved when leadership prioritized people over power, and when respect was no longer optional, but a core value. Meanwhile, Penelope remained a quiet figure in the background. Though her regret was evident, her journey was far from over. Whether she could rebuild her reputation and earn the trust of her colleagues again was uncertain, but the lessons she had learned would stay with her for the rest of her career and her life. This story is more than an account of a workplace confrontation. It's a powerful reminder of what happens when someone stands against prejudice and chooses to lead with integrity. It shows the strength of a single individual to inspire change, but also highlights the responsibility we all share to create spaces where everyone feels valued and respected. Change doesn't always happen in grand gestures. It begins with small steps, the kind Caleb took when he rolled into the lobby that morning. And it begins with us. If you've ever witnessed or experienced a moment of transformation like this, where respect and justice prevailed, share your story. Let your voice inspire others and spark conversations about the values that matter most. Together, we can build communities where respect and kindness are not just ideals, but everyday actions. Because when we stand together, change isn't just possible, it's inevitable.